So this is the SPLITA app. I've designed the SPLITA app for the Mandala Drum, which is designed by Synesthesia Corp. All I've done is taken something I really like about it and been greedy and given it more. Now we have the CC value, which gives us a control of 0 to 127 in MIDI information, and this allows us to control pan, pitch, any form of dial or fader within an application. Unfortunately, this only goes from the center to the outside of the drum, and if you have other sounds there between the other four zones, you will encounter changes that aren't always desirable, and sometimes you would like it to be more or less. So what I've done is I've created a 2-zone version, which allows you to have 2 CC values across 2 zones. So being zone 1 and 2, zone 3 and 4. I've also created a 4-zone version, so each of those 4 zones within the drum have a CC value. And this allows you to, for instance, control pitch shift within that 1 zone or across those 2 zones instead of the whole 4. You can have some on, some off, doesn't matter. And that's it really. It's like it just explodes the Mandala drum, well, for my purpose. I've also rerouted the zones 5 and 6. I don't find them very playable, so I use them as on-off switches. This is great for turning multiple apps on and off, instruments, so you can change on the fly rather than using banks, or you can treat it like a bank method. I've also altered this so you can send an extra 2 CC controls, and these controls fade up and fade down. So when you hit them once, it'll fade up. When you hit it again, it'll fade down. Most of the time it works pretty well. It's best to leave a gap when you're striking these, otherwise it jumps straight back to 0. Okay. Anyway, let's have a look at the Mandala splitter that I've made. Open up the splitter and you'll see something like this. Now, control 1 is the top one. This is 0 to 127 throughout all zones. These 2 here, zone 1 and 2, zone 3 and 4. So that's a 2-zone drum. This one here, self-explanatory, 4 zones. So 1 controller for each of the 4 zones. Now these 2 at the bottom are the fade ramps, and these 2 here are just the E3 and the F3 controls, naturally synced. Here we have the rate at which these ramps, which are here, we can increase it, decrease it. This is the speed that these will fade in and out, and this is the range. You can control the range within Ableton Live, but I prefer to do it here as it allows for less of a jump when skipping in between the 2. Here we have our input, which is obviously going to be a mandala of 1 or 2 or 5 choices that you may have. And then our from, and the from is from this application, being the splitter. We can change the channel. Default is 3. Here we have quick notes, or in this instance, this is the big notes. Quick notes is here. Sorry, my screen is a bit big. And then we have a default. Default just sends all the basic values. So as you see, I change here, and it lights it up nice. Orange means you've initialized the controller, and green just means there's a signal coming through. And the yellow is just an indication of the ramp in progress, I should say. Cool. Also, as you can see in these notes, I've given quick keys, and that makes it easier to assign everything, and also for notes, so we can bring all the notes up and close them. That's the MDA. Now we want to set it up to Ableton Live. First thing we need to do is pick our controller. I'm using TouchOSC. I've made a little app so I can program everything, made life easier. We also want from. From is going to be from the app, So SPLITA. Now let's bring in Ableton Live. The reason I have this to the left is so I can quickly skip between the two and just sort of visually see it while I set it up. Once I've done that, I don't have to look at it again. So in Ableton Live, we need to look at preferences, and in preferences, we want to make sure that we've chosen the splitter. It always has one or two. You always pick one. That's all we need. So that's selected, and we also need to look down here and check that it's on. So if it, in most cases, it will appear like this on your first go, and then click the MIDI ports on. This allows it to come through the track, so we're getting all the actual MIDI notes that it sends, rather than just the controllers. This is just to control the CC values. That's all good. Let's go back. Now I've got a track 1 set up with MIDI. I've got some basic instrument and some basic setups. This is just to show you the mapping. I always restrict it to have whatever version of the splitter I'm using. There we go. That's sending in the drum signal. If I take channel 1 off, obviously it's not coming through. I can restrict it again to channel 3. Voila. Okay, so first thing, Command M, map mode. Okay, down here, I'm going to map all these to the zones corresponding in the MDA. So we click on this, we go back to the splitter, and we can either click on the controller we want, or we can press a quick key. So this is, I'm just going to go through these quickly. And as you can see, that was a lot quicker than hitting your drum, pressing delete, hitting your drum, pressing backspace, or whatever that you need to do to assign the Mandala drum within Ableton Live. That's just handy in itself, let alone having all these multiple instances. So let's have a look at how the CC controls work. There are 7 of them. So we go back. Now, here's my TouchOSC app. Whoa. And obviously I've got my fader, and that's sending from the top 0, 1, 2, 7. Oh, revision. And as I go rotate down, you can see all these controls moving. So zone 1 to 4 is going across the whole board. Zone 1 and 2, it just happens from the top to the middle, and once we get to the middle, it disengages and it goes to the next zone. As you can see below. So hopefully that shows you relative what you can do, or see the mapping working in its place. Now, we can also map zone 5 and 6. Now, I usually use these to arm a track or turn a track instrument on and off, and I can have multiple versions of that. For now, we'll just have a look at turning on some sends. We do the same thing again, map it, and I'm just using my quick keys. Let's get rid of you. Okay, so now that's mapped, and so when I hit my 5 and 6, that's changing. Now, you may also notice the sends on the send were moving up and down. So that's the fade ramp, and that's associated with the rate and the range here. So if I was to skip these up to 20 something, slow the rate down on 1, keep it the same. Let's have a look over here. So hit the first one, A. Notice how it started not from 0 point and doesn't stop at 0 point, but that's its range. And if we click it while it's going, we can stop it from going all the way. So it'll go from the last point. And same with B. Now these are good just for fade-ins. You can bring a sound in, you could bring a track in, anything. I'm not here to give you creative advice, I'm just here to show you a tool, and this tool will work in your favor, hopefully. Now, as you can see, we get some notes here, and that's from C3 through to F3. But I've got F3 and E3 and F3 scaled out. The best way to do that, you use scale, and normally it'll have all the way up here will be orange. I take them all out, and I always take out E and F, so we don't hear it. We don't need to hear it. I don't like playing notes on those. I only like playing notes on the 4, and most of the time I have it set like this, in that fashion, or like this, and that allows you to play it. This would be in the form of a 2-zone using 2 C-zone controllers. You can also use a 2-zone setup and have all 4 of the 4-zone CC controllers going. I'll do more videos on that later, and I'll explain better detail how I use scale. But for now, here you can see full control of an array of CC values and fade and on and offs. I find it really useful. Hopefully you do too.